All right, everyone. Ian Patrick here, back from about a 2 month break. I'm happy to be back, ready to review more classics. And I'm just going to tell you instantly that tonight's review is a perfect film, 4 out of 4 stars. Tonight's review is The Shopworn Angel. It came out in 1938, and it stars Jimmy Stewart, Margaret Sullavan, Walter Pidgeon, and Hattie McDaniel. And I'm happy that I'm coming back on such a high note with such a great movie. I just kind of stumbled upon it. It's one of those rare gems that you're kind of like, okay, let's sit down and watch this old movie. And it was phenomenal. I watched it about a month ago, so it's not as fresh in my mind as it was when I saw it, but I do remember just falling in love with the movie. And when I think of The Shopworn Angel, it's definitely one of those movies where it's about a guy who has fallen for his dream girl, and he actually has a shot at being with his dream girl. And I'll get to all of that when I talk about the plot. But Margaret Sullavan, she plays Daisy, and Daisy is a famous actress. She's on Broadway. She's very famous. James Stewart, he plays a private who's getting ready to be shipped off to war in World War One. And the two, Margaret Sullavan and James Stewart, they had been paired previously together in Next Time We Love, which I believe I've seen. It also has Ray Milland in that. But they would be paired 4 times together. This is the second time that they were together. This is an MGM film. And he put, and it's interesting because Margaret Sullavan, she's playing Daisy. The film was originally going to have, well, there were several choices, and interestingly enough, Joan Crawford was offered to play Daisy in this movie, but she turned it down, which is too bad for her because this movie was a pretty big success. And James Stewart, when he read the script to play Private Pettigrew, he instantly knew that the role was perfect for him. And Walter Pidgeon, he plays sort of Margaret Sullivan's character's Daisy, her mentor, her basically kind of her boss a little bit, because he's like this head Broadway dude. He's a rich guy, real wealthy. And Hattie McDaniel, she's just Margaret Sullivan's housemaid. It's interesting because there had already been 2 previous adaptations of this story. Pettigrew's Girl, which was a silent film, and another one which was actually titled The Shopworn Angel, that came out in the 1920s, and that had Gary Cooper in it. And if you love this movie, then there's also another version. If you really want to go that extra mile, it's called The Kind of Woman, and came out in 1959. That one actually stars Sophia Loren. I've never seen any of those movies. I've only seen The Shopworn Angel with Jimmy Stewart and Margaret Sullavan. Now, the plot of the movie is what makes this such a fairy tale. Jimmy Stewart is a private who has just enlisted. He's from Texas, a good old Texas boy. He comes up to New York, and he has to go through basic training in New York before he's shipped off to Europe. He's going to be the first basically front line to fight over in the trenches in Europe, which was pretty much instant death. They basically knew that they were going to die. And Margaret Sullavan, she's this famous actress that he's always idolized, and he almost gets run over by her car because her driver is going too fast, and he ends up getting in the car with her because she has to give him a ride somewhere, and he just can't believe it because here he is sitting there. Can you imagine, guys or girls, you just stumble upon your crush, basically. It's like if Angelina Jolie almost hit me, and she was like, "Oh, come on, get in my car," basically. And then they don't have too much chemistry right away, but they gradually get more and more chemistry as the film goes, because he brags to his friends, "Oh yeah, she's my gal, she's my girlfriend." So they like, oh no, we don't believe you, man. Come on. Basically says, all right, I'll prove it to you. So he gets into this weird mess where he has to prove to them that Margaret Sullavan really is his girlfriend. It's really funny how she's nice enough to go along with it, and it gets to the point where they become friends. They start going out together. Of course, Jimmy Stewart, he has unrequited love for her. He's completely fallen for her. And one thing that I definitely took away from this movie was he's the type of guy who he talks about his mother's baked apple pie, and how he won't settle for anything else but his mother's apple pie because it's just the best. And basically it's like, why settle for second, third, whatever? Like, I'm not going to have anything else but the best, which is why he says to her, I don't want anybody else. I want you. You're basically on this pedestal, and I want you and only you. And she just thinks he's the sweetest guy, although her heart really is also with Walter Pidgeon, because seeing each other for, I guess, years and years. So this is definitely a love triangle movie. But Walter Pidgeon's character is a really gentleman. He's a gentleman. He's a real sweet guy, and I liked everybody in the movie. They all had good chemistry with each other. I don't want to give it all away, of course, but the ending was, I'm not going to say what the ending was, but the ending was perfect. Like, that's all I should say, really. You have to see this movie, basically. But I do want to read a few things from Jimmy Stewart's biography. I've read from this book before, but let's see. So Walter Pidgeon had this to say, because apparently during the movie, Jimmy Stewart just basically was in love with Margaret Sullavan. They had a thing, basically. Walter Pidgeon said, I really felt like the odd man out in that film. It was really all Jimmy and Maggie, and that was the way it should have been. It was so obvious he was in love with her. He came absolutely alive in his scenes with her, playing with a conviction and a deep sincerity I never knew him to summon away from her. Of course, they both kept up the front that they were friends, and that their mutual affection was purely platonic. For her it may have been, though sometimes I felt she was more emotionally involved off-screen with Jimmy than she consciously was aware she was. Or maybe, being the flirtatious Southern belle she was in most situations, she got some ego kick out of the adoration of her. Sullavan was in love with love, and she loved Jimmy being in love with her. It enhanced her feelings about herself. You kind of get that feeling about Margaret Sullavan when you watch her in movies. So, and it's been said that basically her characters in movies was a lot how she was in real life. But the chemistry between them was dynamite. It was a huge success. And this is a quote from the book. Women cried openly in theaters at the film's ending, while men sat uncomfortably grim and silent. The movie made quite a bit of money. It had a profit of about $146,000, and that's a lot of money for back then. So it was definitely a huge success. I really hope you see the movie, guys, because it's like I said, it's one of those rare gems that you just stumble upon. So I'm glad I stumbled upon it. Now I put the movie out to you to watch. But Ian Patrick here, and I'm back. Have a good night.